A beginner's guide to altering your magic cards. Hey everyone, it's VM Campos, Magic Fan. Have you ever wanted to alter your magic cards but didn't want to pay someone to do it? Well, I'm going to show you a way for you to do it yourself. Check out these cards. You can do this yourself. Let's see how. I'm going to show you a cool hack to do your very own card alters. You don't have to hire any expensive artist and never get your cards back. You can do it yourself. As you can see here, I've got Ayara, First of Lothwain, but I've got Officer Judy Hopps as the art of this card. That's pretty cool. Or how about we have Princess Leia as Etrata the Silencer? This is also another cool altar. How do you do this? You can do this, and I'm going to show you how to do this in this handy dandy video. So let's check it out. Alright, so here's what you'll need. You'll need a card that you want to alter. So let's say I take good old Nebuchadnezzar from back in Chronicles. Okay, let's say I want to take that card. And instead I want to replace it with Walter White. So imagine that. We're going to have Walter White as the art of that, of Nebuchadnezzar. So how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to need an X-Acto knife. Here we have. I need a sharper one than this. This one's not even sharp. Look at that. Nothing's happening. So I'm going to switch this out. We need also a pen. I would recommend a ballpoint pen nib. That's going to adhere better to these types of cards because they're glossy. You're going to need some sort of perfect fit type of sleeve. I'm all out of the KMCs, which I love. I got these Ultra Pro ones that I don't love as much, but they'll get the job done. So whichever of these you want to get. Come on, KMC, sponsor me. You will need a ruler, and of course we'll be using millimeters for this. Now I grew up, of course, with inches, like the real measurement, but millimeters are actually going to be way better for what we need to do here. So go with a ruler with a good millimeter, and I'm going with also with this metal ruler. I think that's going to work way better for when we do our cutting. And since we're going to do cutting, you need also a surface to be able to cut. I've had this for years. I cut on it all the time. It's beautiful. I don't want to accidentally cut my playmat here. Of course, that's Chandra that I got at San Diego Comic-Con, not showing off, but we're going to need somewhere to cut. We're going to need some tape. Any old tape will do, nothing special at all. And I'll show you a couple of different ways to do these alters, and you might need some just like throwaway cards that you don't care about. These are going to get all cut up, so whatever throwaway kinds of commons or whatever, these could also work. Alright, so what is the secret to do this? Maybe by the utensils here you might have figured it out, but here's how this is working. I've got it in the regular sleeves that I'm using here. I'm using some cool squirrel sleeves for this commander deck. So it's got the outer sleeve, and this is in the main card. Now this is also sleeved with one of these inner sleeves, one of these tight sleeves. So the original card is not going to be altered at all. It's obviously not really a valuable card, but imagine you did have a valuable commander that you wanted to be altered, but you don't want someone painting all over your original card and messing it all up. So we have Princess Leia. Now what is happening here is this is the alter part of the card, and it is simply taped to the outside of the perfect fit type of sleeve, and then of course put into the right place, and when that slides into place, it is covering that. That's the answer. I'm going to go through the process of doing it all, of course, but if you want TLDR, that's what you're going to do. And then of course when you put that into the regular sleeve, the full sleeve, then you've got a perfectly altered card that when you pop your commander out to the table, you're like, yeah, Princess Leia for the win. Or Officer Judy Hopps for the win. And the same thing right here. I've got the main sleeve, these cool pink sleeves. Got the inner sleeve, which just has the Judy art and slides perfectly into place. So how this is happening, of course, is I need some sort of alternate art that we need to cut into the exact right dimensions, paste it onto a perfect fit type of sleeve, and then you put it into the regular sleeve, and then the illusion is complete. So obviously you're going to need to practice a little bit to be able to cut all of this in the exact perfect dimensions. Don't be surprised if the first time you do this, it doesn't come out amazingly. That's very common for this to happen. It does take a little bit of effort. If you're not crafty, you might have that issue. But no worries, just keep practicing. I get these great results where when I bring out Ayara to my commander table, everyone's totally amazed. Is that Judy Hopps? I love her. So let's get on with it. As I said, you want definitely a sharp X-Acto blade. This one's seen better days, so I'm going to switch that out. Okay, there we go. Now that's sharp. Ooh, that's sharp. Okay, so we're going to need a nice sharp X-Acto for this to happen. So what we need to do is measure the area of the card art. Now, I have here a vintage from the 90s Legend, back when it was Summon Legend. Of course, I've got a more modern one over here. Here's Zakama. So the art area is different depending on what you're trying to do. So these values that I'm going to give you are still dependent on what you're trying to accomplish. So what is the saying? Measure twice, cut once. Okay, I'm going to start with Nebuchadnezzar first. What I need to know is the exact dimensions that I need to cut. And again, millimeters is going to happen here. None of these 5/8 bullshit and all of that. So you want like real measurements. And like I said, I grew up with the imperial units, but this is just going to be way more accurate. So depending on this old vintage card, it also had a little bit of a bevel to it. So how much do you want to take of that? It's totally up to you. There's no wrong answer. But as I'm looking at it right here, that appears to be 4.9 or 4.8 centimeters, aka 480 millimeters right there. So you need an exact measurement. I'm going to go with 4.8 for the width. Then we're going to go with the height in this case, in this card. Again, this is going to vary definitely for the modern card. We'll check that in a moment to compare it. And here this seems to be 3.9. 4.8 and 3.9. I'm going to write that down. If we compare with the modern cards, again, this is with the M15 frame. If we go with 8th edition frames, that's a little different. But if we look here, we have 5.2. So again, measure twice, cut once. Whatever you're trying to alter, make sure you measure it yourself. Don't go by these values. But in this case, it's a 5.2 width, and then the height is a 3.9. So write that down. That's what you're going to go with. I'm going to go first with Nebuchadnezzar over here, which I noted is 4.9 by 3.8. Let me measure it one more time again. So measure twice, cut once. Yep, so that's what we're going to go with. Okay, that's what we know. Now, this is a card from a whole booster pack of Breaking Bad cards. Yes, these exist. No, they're not like a real card game or anything. They're just collectible cards. You can find these online, of course, or my local comic shop has a whole bunch of weird stuff in their back storage. So, yeah, about some Breaking Bad cards. $3.99 for only like 6 cards or whatever. So, whatever random cards that you have, like over here, I've got some Marvel Universe putting Spider-Man on one of my cards. That's going to be amazing. Or if you're more of a DC person, putting Superman or Batman right on my Magic cards, that's going to be amazing. No need to alter them. You can even go like really, really wacky if you find some of these other things like dinosaurs, Animaniacs. There's just so many cards that exist in the world that you never even heard of that might be kind of interesting to put into your cards. But obviously what I'm going to do is eventually I'm going to use this for the Zakama card. That'll be cool. Anyway, back to the subject at hand. Okay, so we're going to use Walter White. Now, here is where the other cards come in handy for the throwaway cards. Depending on the card that you're going to use for the altar. Check it out here. If we put this on the top right corner, I only have to cut 2 sides, left and bottom, to get the dimensions that I need. I have the top and the right that I don't need to alter, so I can save myself a little bit of effort and only cut left edge, bottom edge. That's how this card was designed. If I want it a little bit more centered, well, I'm going to need to make sure I measure properly, cut here, here. So 3 cuts, leaving 1 without a cut. Or putting it over here, leaving 2 uncut sides, and then cutting 2 sides. If you have something else like this is going to be more of a challenge. We want right here, Gus, more centered. So that's going to be a cut on the top, the right, the bottom, and the left. That's when the throwaway card is going to come in a moment. We're not going to do that one just yet. We're going to do the easy one. We're going to do 2 cuts to do this replacement. Okay, so we have our measurements. We're going to measure onto the card, mark, and then cut. For the width, we need 4.9. So we need to measure 4.9 over here. So where do we have 4.9? So 4.9 right here, all the way to the left over here. Now this is always when you're going to do the practice of things. And then when I go this way with the 3.8 over here. So I would recommend on the back side to do your markings so that you're not messing up your main art. So from the back side over here, make sure everything lines up because you're looking at it backwards. From this corner over here to the right should be 4.9. So I'm going to do it down here. So make a mark right there, 4.9. Yes, it's out of focus. All right, so we've got the 4.9 over here. And then on this side over here, we're going to go with the 3.8. Having something like this with lines that are parallel will also greatly help you. All right, so we've got the measurements, we've got our lines. Actually, that would be a cool shot as well, but we're gonna go with the front. So here we have the width, 4.9, the height, 3.8. Now it's time to cut. So once again, cut from the back, because that's where you made your lines. Cut on a surface that can handle it. Make sure you have a sharp blade, and then if you make a mistake, try again. Oh, that's number 1. So here we go. And my hand slipped. Whoops! But that's what happens when you do this the first time. I'm gonna say I did this on purpose, but there could be things that could go wrong. Of course, there my finger slipped like less than a millimeter, and then that happened right there. So that's okay. I have more than 1, so we'll try again with another card. But that's the idea. Are you getting the idea? Let me just do the other cut here just to kind of get it all complete. All right, that cut happened better over here. And we have that. Okay, so again, not great, but okay, here we have the width. The width came out perfect. I love how that came out. The height, I did do a little mistake on that, but again, I've done it correctly. As you can see here, did I do it perfectly the first time? Yes, I did. And this one, yes, I did. But right here, it's just a little bit of nerves for the camera. But anyway, it's so close. It's extremely close, almost complete. So I'm going to continue with it and then do another one because I've got another card I want to do. So, okay, let's say you cut it out perfectly. Let's say you didn't mess up horribly like me. Congratulations. What's our next step? Okay, the next step is the perfect fits. Get your perfect fit. Put your card into it. And then determine where the new altar will go. Yeah, right there, no problem. Then your tape, double-sided tape, and put it into the right place. Oh, this will look cool. Richard Kane Ferguson drew Walter White. So it's going to go there. We get our tape. It's totally easy. Just grab a little bit of tape, fold it over itself, put it onto the card. Nothing special, because again, it's going to be double-sleeved. Then find where this goes. Let me zoom in even more. find where this goes. Approximately right there. I should be doing it on the table, but there we go. All right, so again, tiny amount right there will be noticeable, so that's why you need to practice. But okay, we've got it in, and then that goes into the regular sleeve. You probably have to be careful here. Obviously, you know how to double sleeve, but you're gonna hold on to that arch right there, slide it into place. There we go. Now from a distance, if I showed it to you like that, like, hey everyone, I'm playing Walter White, everyone's gonna be like, cool, man. They're not gonna notice that little piece, but imagine that little millimeter, that tiny millimeter was there. That is my altar. Obviously, now that I know how I would have wanted it, I wanted to do it a little bit differently. I only want to cut 2 sides of things over here and then leave 2 intact. So it would have been better to maybe move it down a little bit and so forth. So I'm going to show you the other technique in just a moment with the other card. But let's say here, first attempt, Nebuchadnezzar altar. I kind of like it. What about you? That's fun. Okay, let's do the other one just for more practice. I am going to do Gus. Okay, let's say I want to do Gus as well with the same card over here. Then we will do Zakama in a bit. So Gus obviously has a certain place where I need to cut him out of the arch right here to fit just right. So I'm still going to go with this vintage card, which is 4.9 by 3.8 centimeters. But here, because it's got to be in a certain part of everything, here's where the throwaway card comes. I have one of these cards, and this obviously has enough surface area to encompass the art part of things. So I need to devise here a cutout shape of a 4.9 by 3.8, preferably in the center somewhere. And cut this out, and this will be my stencil for when I then put it over here to cut out the other card. So let's set up this card. So any arbitrary starting point doesn't matter, everything will radiate from here. All right, there's my top left corner, 4.9, 3.8. It's slightly not perfectly angled. Again, practice makes perfect, but you live, you learn. Okay, so we're gonna move over to the 4.9. So this type of cutting board is definitely amazing. It's got these this grid pattern that really helps to make these lines with. Okay, so I've got here so far, and then the final 3.8. Okay, so the whole point of this is to create the shape right here to cut this out to then use it as a stencil for a different card. Once again, I am using a vintage card with a different size than a modern card. You'll have to change your sizes for that. So, time to cut this out. Cut twice to make sure the cut goes all the way, and then go around. Right on that one, I slipped up a little bit, but that's okay. Next. All right, that cut came out good. Final cut. Okay. Okay, so there's our throwaway card, so that then we can use that as a stencil for that. That's the whole point of this, to figure out where we are going to cut this card when we don't have the luxury of using the pre-cut edges. This is an example where you might want to go slightly out of your art, a tiny amount, because you're obviously going to need to mark inside of the cutout and then of course cut it out that way. Now what could also be helpful to hold all of this down would be to tape down the artwork. All right, there we go. We've got Gus Fring ready to replace that art. I can reuse the same sleeve, or of course I can just easily put another sleeve in. If you've got more of these, that's what I'm going to do. Just go with another sleeve so that I can switch out the art between them whenever I want, no problem. Same idea. Let's see how good we got it. A little off, but that'll still look pretty cool right there. So put the tape in, and then we've got our card alter. Put it into the regular sleeve. And don't tell me that doesn't look amazing. Gus Fring as my magic card as I lay out my card in a game of Commander, or Walter White, or Yakko Warner, or Captain America, or any of the variety of cards that you may come across. This is a really fun project that you could do yourself that will really impress people. Obviously you need a little bit of practice to get the best results, such as these little beauties over here. And even when your card is on the other side of the table like this, people are going to be totally in awe. I summoned Gus Fring. And like I said, if you take the right measurements, then you can also do that with a more modern card. Like I said, here is Zakama Primal Calamity as Fran, from that old classic show, Dinosaurs, not the mama, not the Zakama. And there you go. You saw how to alter your very own magic cards. All that you need is some cool cards to replace the original cards, a little bit of time and effort, patience, and practice. And you too will have some cards that are the most unique thing in the whole table. Imagine rolling up to your next magic game with amazing alters like this. Tell him VM Compost taught you how to do this. So I'd love to hear what you end up with. Tell me in the comments. Tweet at me, VM Compost on Twitter. Tell me how this went. How did you do? Did you cut these out perfectly? Was your play group amazed at the alters that you came up with that no one else in the world has? Tell me all about it. I'd love to hear about it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, ring the bell, battle the Minotaur, all that stuff. Keep up to date with everything that I do. Check out the Patreon, patreon.com/vmcompost for more cool stuff. Simply follow for free on Patreon to be alerted to everything that I do. Think about donating $1 to join the VMC crew to unlock cool stuff. At the $2 range, I'll actually mail you some vintage magic cards in appreciation for joining the VMC crew. But if you can't quite pledge at the moment, no worries. Simply follow, like, share, subscribe, comment, help me go viral, all that good stuff. Totally appreciate it. This has been VM Campos, and I'll see you next time.